I just stuck with records since 1976. And I still love them, and there's a lot of other people out there who love them too. So when I was a little kid, my brother used to walk around the house with a screwdriver and take everything apart. And I found my own screwdriver, and I'd walk around behind him and try to figure out how it went back together. People seem to have a very visceral, emotional attachment to a turntable. You think it's crazy that something that sits up in an attic for years would still work, but most of the time the only thing that's gonna go bad on is the belt, if it had a belt, and maybe the needle, and you replace those two things and it's working again. There are other elements of it, the suspension and all that stuff, the stuff that kind of gets it from being a good playback system to a fantastic playback system, right? There's all the refinements that you can do for that. I know a guy who's looking for a dual turntable. He's one of my kids' old teachers. Nice guy. And I'm like, this would be a tricky one to sell because it's so rusty, but I might just give it to him. I like the repairs where I get to be creative, I get to off-road, I get to four-wheel and just go, okay, it's a pretty simple mechanical part that's missing or mangled or something like that. How do I recreate it? Things like, springs. Springs stretch. Springs age. Springs will go flying across the room. You have to figure out how to recreate whatever it is that spring needs to do. I keep a collection of springs. I call it my spring collection.
And Zenith's famous MicroTouch 2G tone arm makes it impossible to accidentally ruin your fine stereo records.
It's fascinating to the different ways that the countries express themselves in terms of their design aesthetics and engineering. German turntables are very complex. They're not that difficult to work on. The Japanese ones tend to be extremely very simple and clean on the inside. The techniques seem to be designed to be easy to work on, which I really appreciate. This is the Nakamichi Dragon computing turntable, which its neat trick, which nobody else has been able to pull off, is it can take an off-center record and center it. It's amazing. That was a holy grail for me. At some point I want an apprentice. It needs to be somebody young because there's a legacy that needs to happen in terms of passing on information about how to fix things, specifically about these kind of devices, because if I have anything to do with it, they're not going to go away. The old ones, they can still be fixed and still keep working, but I need to train somebody who wants to learn how to do mechanical puzzles and figure out how to make these things work. It's fun, it's exciting, there's a lot of off-roading. The customer satisfaction index is really high because it makes people happy. So, my sales pitch, intern. If you were to categorize my collection, there's a lot of really melodic songs that are well produced and sound good. People always ask me, why do turntables and records persist? You've got a technology, like I said, this record is 74 years old. How they got it right, so right with this technology, and it's why the technology is still viable. The only main difference between this and what you're listening to now is they came out with stereo in the 1960s, cool innovation. But this mono record, 74 years old, sounds amazing. There's artwork. It feels like something. I think people who feel passionate about an artist or recording, they want artifact. They want something that they can hold. They want to buy it. I remember going to some of the record shows, and you get all these kids, they're buying records, and they didn't even have a turntable. They wanted the thing because the thing represented something to them, and it feels like it's something that matters.